The galaxy was not peaceful anymore. For many cycles, where it spread across star systems like a disease. Entire planets had burned. Civilizations had fallen. Even the strongest alien empires had started to weaken under the weight of endless conflict. No one was winning anymore, only surviving for now. So, the Galactic War Council was formed. It was built from the oldest and strongest races in the galaxy. Species that once ruled star clusters. Species that once feared nothing. But now, even they were afraid. The council chamber floated in orbit around a dead moon. It was massive, built from dark metal and glowing energy lines. Inside, hundreds of leaders from different species gathered. Their eyes were tired. Their voices were broken. On the central hologram, thousands of war reports kept flashing. Lost fleet, destroyed colony, signal lost, entire system wiped out. A deep silence filled the chamber. Then one of the council leaders spoke. It was High Commander Virex of the Fallen Empire. His voice was heavy. "We cannot continue like this," he said. "If the war goes on for another cycle, half the galaxy will collapse." Another leader answered quickly. "And if we stop," she asked, "our enemies would destroy us in silence." No one had an answer, because both options meant destruction. A younger alien officer stepped forward. His hands were shaking slightly, but his voice was clear. "There is one species we have not called yet." The room turned silent. Everyone already knew what he meant. Earth. Humans. There was a long pause. Even the holograms flickered slightly, as if the system itself hesitated. Then an older council member spoke, almost laughing. "Humans," he said. "That small world at the edge of the Orion Arm?" "Yes," the officer replied. Another leader shook his head. "They are new, weak compared to us. Their technology is still growing. Why would we call them?" The officer did not answer immediately. He looked at the war reports again. Then he said, "Because every race we sent has failed." Silence again. No one could deny it. Every empire, every fleet, every elite force had already tried and failed. Then Commander Virex raised his claw slowly. "Send them a message," he said. "A final request." A few leaders protested immediately. "No," one said. "We should not involve primitives in a galactic war." "This is not their level," said another. But Virex raised his voice. "Look around you," he said. "There is no level left. There is only survival." The chamber went quiet again. Finally, the vote was taken. The decision passed. A message would be sent to Earth. The transmission to Earth. On a small blue planet called Earth, life continued normally. Cities were bright. Oceans were calm. People lived, worked, and dreamed without knowing what was happening in the stars above them. Then, deep in space, a signal was prepared. It was not just a normal message. It was encrypted with ancient war codes, using frequencies that only advanced civilizations could detect. The council watched as the transmission began. The message was simple. "Humanity of Earth, we request your assistance. The galaxy is at war. Send us your army." No details. No emotion. Just a desperate request. The signal was sent across space. It would take time to reach Earth. But the council waited. The waiting silence. Days passed. Then weeks. The war did not stop while they waited. Entire systems fell during that time. Every report made the council more desperate. But there was no reply from Earth. Some leaders began to mock the decision. "I told you," one said. "They are ignoring us. Maybe they do not even understand the message." Another laughed. "Or maybe they are too scared." A few even suggested sending another species instead. But Commander Virex did not speak. He just watched the empty space where Earth's response should have appeared. Something about the silence felt wrong. It was not ignorance. It felt intentional. On Earth, the hidden truth. Far away on Earth, the message had arrived. It was received by multiple intelligence agencies at the same time. Governments around the world went into emergency meetings. The message was translated quickly. At first, they thought it was a mistake. Then they realized it was real. A galaxy-wide war, and a request for an army. The world leaders gathered in secret underground facilities. Screens showed the alien transmission again And again, silence filled the room. Finally, one human general spoke. So they finally found us. A politician looked confused. Found us for what? The general looked at him directly. For what we tried to forget. No one spoke after that. Because humanity had a history, a hidden one. Not the history shown in textbooks, but the history buried in classified files. Projects that never officially existed. Soldiers who were never listed. Wars that were never recorded. The room stayed silent for a long time. Then the decision was made. A response would be sent. The human reply. Back in space. The council waited again. And then the signal arrived. It was short. Very short. Only one sentence. You asked for an army. You will not like what we send. The chamber went silent instantly. Some leaders laughed nervously. What does that mean? One asked. Is it a joke? But Commander Virex did not laugh. He stared at the message carefully. Something about it felt heavy. Not threatening in a loud way, but in a quiet, controlled way, like a blade already drawn. He leaned forward slowly. Track their movement, he ordered. A technician replied. No movement detected. Another officer added. No fleet launch detected. No weapon deployment detected. The council frowned. So what are they sending? Someone asked. No one answered, because there was nothing to see. No ships. No signals. No preparation. Just silence. The first fear. Hours passed. Still nothing. But slowly, something strange began to spread in the council chamber. Unease. Not because of what they saw, but because of what they did not see. One young alien officer finally spoke quietly. Why does it feel like we made a mistake? No one answered him. But deep inside the chamber, for the first time in many cycles of war, the strongest beings in the galaxy felt something unfamiliar. Fear, not of ships, not of weapons, but of humans, and what they might have just awakened. The galaxy held its breath. After Earth's strange reply, nothing moved for days. The council expected fleets, ships, or at least some signal of preparation. But space remained quiet. Too quiet. Commander Virex stood inside the war chamber, staring at the dark hologram of Earth's last message. You will not like what we send. Those words kept repeating in his mind. Around him, the council members grew restless. Some began to laugh again, trying to hide their fear. They are bluffing, one alien said. A primitive world trying to sound powerful. Another agreed quickly. Yes, they are probably building ships slowly, maybe centuries away from reaching us. But Virex did not agree. He had fought in wars across 6 star systems, and he knew something simple. Species that were weak did not speak like that. The first disturbance. It started at the edge of the war zone. A remote monitoring station picked up a signal. At first, it looked like noise. Then it became clear. A spatial tear. A small ripple in space-time. The station commander reported immediately. We are detecting an unknown anomaly. It is not natural. The council was alerted. On the main hologram, a small point appeared near the battlefield. It was not a ship. It was a tear in reality. The technicians panicked. What is it? One shouted. Is it a wormhole? No. Another replied quickly. It is stable, controlled. Commander Virex stepped forward. Show me visuals. The feed zoomed in. Space itself was bending. Then something emerged. The first arrival. At first, they thought it was a ship, but it was not shaped like any ship. It was too smooth, too silent. It did not glow. It did not announce itself. It simply existed. Then a second object came through. Then a third. No formation. No clear structure. Just silent arrivals through the tear. The council watched carefully. One alien whispered, "Where are the engines?" Another replied, "I don't see any weapons." But Virex noticed something else. There were no identification signals. No communication. Nothing. Just presence. The monsters appear. The first boarding report came from a nearby warship. A patrol vessel of the Virex fleet approached the anomaly to investigate. It sent a short message. We are making contact. Then silence. Seconds later, another message arrived, But it was not from the patrol ship. It was from inside it. The message was broken, distorted. They're inside. They're already. The transmission ended. The council froze. Commander Virex turned sharply. Status of patrol ship? A technician checked the data, then stopped. His face went pale. The ship is offline. Destroyed. Virex asked quickly. The technician hesitated. No, not destroyed. Just silent. No life signals. No power drain. Nothing. That was worse than destruction. It meant total control had been taken. First visual contact. A surveillance drone finally captured footage. The council watched it closely. Inside the patrol ship, corridors were dark. Emergency lights flickered. Then movement. Figures walked through the halls. Not fast. Not aggressive. Just calm. They looked human. But something was wrong. Their movements were too precise. Too controlled. No fear. No hesitation. One of them stopped near a fallen alien soldier. It looked at the body, then simply stepped over it. No emotion. No reaction. One council member whispered, "Are those humans?" Virex did not answer immediately. He was watching carefully. Then he said, "No, those are not normal humans. The hidden program. Inside Earth's secret military archives, long-forgotten systems have been activated. The world leaders watched quietly as classified files were reopened, a system labeled Project Endgame. No one spoke for a moment. Then a scientist broke the silence. "We thought this project was canceled." A general replied coldly, "It was never canceled. Just hidden." Another screen showed data. These were not soldiers trained in normal warfare. They were something else. Enhanced units. Conditioned beyond normal limits. Trained not for victory, but for ending conflict completely. One officer asked, "Why were they created?" The general answered slowly, "Because humanity learned something in its past wars." Everyone waited. He continued, "There are wars you cannot win with mercy." Silence filled the room again. Back in space, the silent infiltration. The alien council watched in horror as more reports came in. One by one, ships in the war zone went dark. No explosions. No warnings. Just silence. Entire fleets were losing communication. Commander Virex clenched his fist. "Send reinforcements," he ordered, but the response came quickly. "There are no targets to fire at," a technician said nervously. "They are inside our ships before we can detect them." That statement changed everything, because it meant one thing. The enemy was already everywhere. The first encounter. A small squad of council elite soldiers boarded one of their lost ships. They moved carefully through the dark corridors. Weapons ready. Sensors active. Then they saw them, at the far end of the hall. Standing still. 4 figures. Human-shaped, but completely silent. The alien squad leader shouted, "Identify yourselves." No answer. The figures did not move. One soldier fired a warning shot. The bullet hit the wall behind them. Still no reaction. Then one of the figures finally spoke. Its voice was calm. Too calm. "You should not be here." The alien soldiers froze. The voice was not loud, but it carried something deeper. Not anger. Not threat. Just certainty. The squad leader raised his weapon again. But before he could act, the lights went out for exactly 3 seconds. When they returned, the alien squad was gone. No bodies. No blood. Just empty space. The council's fear begins. Back in the council chamber, reports kept coming in. Fleet after fleet, silent. Station after station, offline. No battles reported. Only disappearance. Commander Virex finally spoke. His voice was lower now. "What are we facing?" No one answered, because the truth was becoming clear. This was not a war. This was removal, not destruction. Erasure. One council member whispered, "We should have never asked Earth for help." Virex slowly turned his head. "And why is that?" The alien hesitated. "Because they did not send an army." He stopped, then continued. "They sent something that ends armies." The galaxy had never seen silence like this. Not peace, not ceasefire, but a silence that felt wrong. a silence that grew heavier with every passing hour. After the arrival of the unknown human forces, the Galactic War Council expected chaos. They expected explosions, fleet battles, or at least a visible enemy they could understand. But none of that happened. Instead, ships stopped responding. Systems went dark. Entire fleets simply vanished from communication networks. No distress calls were completed. No final messages were sent. It was as if the war itself was being erased piece by piece. Inside the council chamber, Commander Virex stood in the center of the war room. His eyes were fixed on the holographic map. It once showed thousands of active battle zones. Now it showed silence, empty regions, dark zones expanding slowly like a disease. A young council officer spoke nervously. "We are losing contact with Fleet 7 and Fleet 9. Another interrupted quickly. "Fleet 12 is gone as well." "Gone?" Virex repeated sharply. "Yes, no signal. No debris. Nothing." Silence filled the chamber. For the first time, even the most powerful alien leaders felt uncertain. One council member whispered, "This is not war." Another completed the sentence quietly. "This is removal." No enemy on the battlefield. Virex ordered full surveillance across all remaining fleets. Every available sensor was activated. Every possible scan was run. But there was nothing to see. No enemy formations. No energy signatures. No weapons fire. Just empty space where fleets used to exist. One technician looked confused. "Commander, we are not detecting any large-scale destruction events." Virex turned quickly. "What does that mean?" The technician hesitated. "It means they are not being destroyed in battle." The room went silent again. Another officer spoke slowly. "Then how are they disappearing?" No one answered, because the data did not make sense. Entire fleets were simply stopping, like systems being switched off, one by one. The fear of the unknown method. Across different war zones, similar reports came in. A patrol ship would report movement nearby. Then silence. A station would detect unknown life signatures. Then silence. A fleet would prepare for contact. Then silence. There were no patterns, no strategy that could be studied. One alien strategist finally spoke. "This is not warfare." He looked at the hologram carefully. "This is intervention." Commander Virex frowned. "Explain." The strategist swallowed hard. "They are not attacking us in any traditional way." He pointed at the map. "They are removing us from the battlefield before we can fight back." The room grew colder. The first real resistance attempt. A coalition fleet of 3 major empires decided to take action. They refused to disappear silently. They formed a defensive formation near a key star corridor. Heavy weapons were activated. Energy shields were raised. Commanders prepared for contact. One fleet captain sent a message across all channels. "If you are out there, show yourselves." For a few minutes, nothing happened. Then a response came. Not a voice, not a transmission, but a system alert inside their ships. Every screen flashed at once. A single line appeared. "Engagement not required." The fleet captain shouted. "What does that mean?" Before anyone could respond, the lights in the lead ship flickered, then went out. Backup systems failed instantly. Weapon systems shut down. Shields collapsed. No explosion followed. No impact. Just silence. The entire coalition fleet stopped functioning. Every ship drifted slowly in space, alive but unreachable. Inside one silent ship, a surveillance probe managed to capture internal footage from one of the disabled ships. The council watched carefully. Inside the ship, alien crew members were still alive, moving, breathing, but frozen in fear. No communication worked. No commands responded. One engineer hit the control panel repeatedly. Nothing happened. A soldier shouted something in panic, but no sound reached the outside systems. It was like the ship had been cut off from reality itself. Then the cameras caught something strange. A figure moved through the hallway, human-shaped, walking slowly, not running, not hiding, just walking. Crew members stepped aside instinctively, not because of orders, but because of instinct. Fear. The figure stopped at the bridge door, looked inside, and said only one sentence. Conflict resolved. Then it turned away, and the ship went dark. The council breaks down. Back in the war chamber, panic was spreading. Fleet reports kept disappearing. Communication networks were unstable. Entire sectors were going silent one after another. A council leader finally shouted, "This is impossible. No force can control this many fleets without a fight." Virex responded calmly, then explained what is happening. No one could, because everything defied logic. No weapons fire, no resistance, just controlled silence. Another officer spoke hesitantly. "Commander, what if they are not fighting us at all?" Virex turned slowly. "What do you mean?" The officer continued. "What if they are simply shutting us down?" The room froze. That idea was worse than destruction, because destruction meant war, and war could be fought. But shutdown meant control. Absolute control. Earth observes quietly. Far away, on Earth, the situation was being monitored from deep underground command centers. Human officials watched multiple screens, each showing alien fleet status. One scientist spoke quietly. "It's working," another replied. "It was never supposed to be a war." A young officer asked, "Then what is it?" The room went silent for a moment. Then a senior commander answered, "A correction." No one argued, because they all knew the truth. Humanity had not sent soldiers. They had activated something far older, something designed not to win wars, but to end them so completely that no future war could begin. The final fleet standoff. Only one major alien fleet remained active, the strongest coalition force in the galaxy. They refused to surrender. They refused to disappear. They gathered near a dying star, weapons charged, ships aligned. Commander Virex personally addressed them through encrypted channels. "Hold position," he ordered. "We will understand this enemy before we act again." But before he could finish, a new signal arrived. Not from Earth, not from any known system, but directly inside every ship. A voice. Calm, clear. "Human, you are the last active formation." The fleet froze. The voice continued. "This phase is complete." A council officer shouted, "Where are you? Show yourselves." The response was immediate. "We are already here." The collapse of understanding. The fleet's sensors went blind. Not damaged, not destroyed, just unable to detect anything anymore. One by one, systems shut down. The ships remained intact, but fully disconnected from command control. Commander Virex stood still. For the first time in his entire life, he did not understand his enemy, not their technology, not their strategy, not even their presence. And that was the most terrifying part, because war required understanding. But this did not. The galaxy was silent, not the calm silence of peace, but the kind of silence that feels unnatural, like something powerful is watching and waiting. After the collapse of the last fleet, no alien empire dared to move. No ship entered contested space. No signal was sent without fear. The Galactic War Council had become something else now, not a council of power, but a room full of survivors trying to understand what they had awakened. Commander Virex alone. Commander Virex stood alone in the war chamber. The holographic table still showed the galaxy map, but it was almost empty now. Most fleets were offline. Most systems were silent. Only one region remained active. Earth. Virex stared at it for a long time. His voice was low. "So this is it?" A council officer nearby asked carefully, "What is it, Commander?" Virex did not look away from Earth's marker. "This is not war anymore," he said. "This is a lesson." The officer frowned. "A lesson?" Virex finally turned. "Yes," he said, "and we were the ones who failed it." The final transmission from Earth. Suddenly, every surviving council system lit up, not with alarms, not with threats, but with a single incoming signal. Origin, Earth. All channels opened automatically. No encryption blocked it. No defense stopped it. It simply arrived. The room froze. Commander Virex raised his hand slowly. "Play it." The screen flickered, and for the first time, The council saw a human face. Not a soldier, not a weapon operator. Just a man in a dark room. Calm eyes. No anger. No fear. Just silence before speech. Then he spoke. Humanity finally answers. The human voice was steady, controlled, but heavy. You asked for an army. The council listened without blinking. The man continued. We did not want to answer. A pause. Then, because when humanity answers, things end. Virex clenched his fist slightly. The human looked directly into the camera, as if he could see them, as if distance did not matter. You called us because your wars became too large for you to control. But you did not understand what you were asking for. The room remained silent. The human leaned forward slightly and said the line that changed everything. We did not send an army. A pause, long enough to feel like pressure building in space itself. Then the final truth. We sent what remains when humanity stops pretending to be merciful. The meaning of monsters. Virex finally spoke. His voice was quiet. What are they? A council member replied softly. Monsters. Virex shook his head slowly. No, he said. Not monsters. He looked at the screen again, at the human face, at the calm expression. They are what happens, he said, when a species learns every way to end war and keeps it hidden. The council was silent, because they understood now. Humanity had not been hiding weakness. They had been hiding restraint. The truth behind Project Endgame. Far away, deep inside Earth's underground command network, the truth was finally being revealed to a few remaining officials. Project Endgame was never an army. It was not built for conquest. It was built after humanity's darkest war era, a time when Earth almost destroyed itself, a time when every nation realized something terrifying. They were capable of ending everything. So they built systems, not to expand war, but to ensure that if war ever reached a certain point again, it would not continue. It would stop. Completely. One scientist spoke quietly. We didn't create soldiers. Another added, we created endings. A third voice whispered, and we hoped we would never have to use them. Back in space, the council's realization. Commander Virex stepped closer to the hologram. His voice was calm now, almost respectful. You did not fight us, he said into the transmission. The human on the screen nodded slightly. No, he replied. Fighting implies equality. A pause. Then, you were never our enemy. That statement confused the council. Virex frowned. Then what were we? The human answered without hesitation. A problem that required correction before it spread further. The words were not said with anger, not with pride, but with certainty. That was worse. Because certainty meant it was not personal. It was procedure. The cost becomes clear. One council elder finally spoke. His voice was shaky. If you had this power, why not use it earlier? The human's expression did not change, but his answer came slower. Because every time humanity uses its true capability, something is lost that cannot be replaced. He paused, then continued. We call the cost. The council listened carefully. The human continued. We do not use it because we enjoy it. A pause. We use it because we have already tried everything else. Silence filled the chamber again. Even Virex did not speak, because he understood now. There was no victory in this, only necessity. The final warning. The human leaned back. His voice became final. You asked for an army. We gave you something far more dangerous. A pause. Then, we gave you restraint removed. The screen flickered slightly. The galaxy map behind him lit up briefly, showing all Silence fleets. This is not destruction. This is containment. Another pause, then the final warning. Do not ask again. The council silence. The transmission ended. No dramatic explosion. No final threat. Just silence. Commander Virex stood still for a long time. The council members waited for him to speak. But he did not, because there was nothing left to say. Finally, one officer whispered, Are we safe now? Virex looked at the empty galaxy map, then answered honestly, No. The officer frowned. Then what are we? Virex paused, then said quietly, We are remembered. Earth's final action. On Earth, all endgame systems slowly powered down. Not because of victory, but because the threat had been neutralized. The underground command centers went dark one by one. A senior human officer closed a final log. "We did not win a war," he said. "We ended a mistake." Another replied, "And if they return?" The officer looked at the screen, showing the silent galaxy. "Then they will remember why silence is safer." Epilogue. The galaxy after humans spoke. Across the galaxy, every surviving empire changed overnight. No new wars began. No expansion attempts were made. No fleets crossed borders again. Because now, everyone knew, not what humanity had, but what humanity could do. And that knowledge was enough. In the Galactic Council chamber, Commander Virex recorded the final entry in the War Archive. His words were simple. "We asked for an army. We received the reason armies are no longer needed." The archive closed. And for the first time in galactic history, the galaxy did not fear war. It feared what ended it.